Welcome to the Explainer. So today we are tackling something absolutely crucial. We are exploring a hidden financial trap that honestly keeps millions of people stuck in this endless cycle of struggle. We call it the high price of poverty. And we're going to break down exactly why being poor is paradoxically way more expensive than being wealthy. But more importantly, our main goal today is to uncover the actionable steps you can take right now to build real stability and break free for good.
All right, I want you to imagine two totally equally intelligent people starting out on completely different paths in life. They both work incredibly hard, and they both genuinely want a better life. But there is one major difference here. The person on path A is born into a family with money, and the person on path B is born into poverty. Now, fast forward 20 years. The person on path A, they own a home, they've got investments, a solid savings account, and they're sleeping peacefully at night. But the person on path B is still struggling. They're living paycheck to paycheck, constantly feeling like they are just one single emergency away from absolute disaster. So why does this happen? Is the person on path A just smarter? Well, not necessarily. Did they work harder? No, definitely not. You see, these drastically different outcomes after 20 years are absolutely not due to laziness. The real answer lies in something economists call the cost of poverty.
Section 1, the hidden poverty trap, or why being poor is expensive. Okay, let's dive into this cost of poverty and see exactly what happens when life throws a curveball your way. Think about a pretty simple, unexpected expense. Let's say a $500 car repair. Now, if you have some savings, that repair is annoying, sure, but it's totally manageable, right? You pay the mechanic, you move on with your week. But what if you don't have savings? That exact same car repair becomes a full-blown crisis. Maybe you have to borrow money from a payday lender or slap it on a super high-interest credit card. Suddenly, that initial $500 repair rapidly ticks up to $700, then $900, and before you know it, you're shelling out $1,200 for a $500 problem. The person struggling isn't just paying for the repair, they're paying this incredibly steep penalty just for not being able to afford it up front. It's literally like quicksand. The harder you struggle to get out of that initial hole, the deeper you sink. Every single financial mistake or emergency just becomes disproportionately devastating. Section 2, the boots theory, or paying double for less. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is how buying cheap items actually costs you way more over time. So this trap expands to almost everything we buy, and it reveals this incredibly frustrating paradox. Imagine a wealthy person buys a really high-quality pair of boots for $100. Because they're well-made, those boots are going to last for 10 full years. That means their total cost over a decade is just $100. Simple enough. But now, look at the struggling person. They can't afford that $100 upfront cost, so what do? They buy a $20 pair of boots. But because the quality is just lower, those boots wear out, and they have to be replaced every single year. So after 10 years, the poorer person has spent $200. They end up spending twice as much money over the exact same time frame for a fundamentally worse experience. And the crazy thing is, this doesn't just apply to boots. It happens with cars, housing, clothing, appliances, technology, the whole shebang. A lack of upfront capital basically forces you into this endless cycle of replacing cheap goods. Section 3, time, stress, and debt. The 3 taxes. Let's move to this and see how this builds into a vicious cycle of hidden taxes that relentlessly punish folks without a financial cushion. First up is the debt tax. And guys, there is a shocking irony in our financial system. Debt affects everybody, sure, but definitely not equally. Just notice how a wealthy person, someone with assets and great credit, can just stroll into a bank and secure a loan at a 5% interest rate. But someone who's struggling financially, maybe they have a low credit score because of some past emergencies, they might be forced to accept a loan at 20 or even 30%. It's wild. The people who need financial help the most, the ones with literally the least amount of money, are penalized with the absolute highest borrowing costs. I mean, it is incredibly difficult to get ahead when the price of simply accessing money is 6 times higher for you than it is for someone who's already wealthy. Then there's the stress tax. And I really want us to empathize with this. Because poverty doesn't just drain your bank account, it drains your mind. Imagine waking up every single day and your mental bandwidth is entirely consumed by just immediate survival. How am I going to pay rent? Which bills can I delay? How will I afford groceries or a sudden medical bill? Studies actually show that this constant, grinding financial stress just eats up your cognitive bandwidth. The problem here is absolutely not a lack of intelligence. The problem is a lack of bandwidth. When your brain is hyper-focused on just surviving today, things like long-term planning, learning new skills, or strategizing how to build wealth, they become incredibly difficult. And finally, we have the hidden time tax. Look, wealthy people routinely spend money to save time. They take direct flights, they hire help, they buy super reliable cars. But individuals living in poverty, they have to spend their time because they lack money. This means taking, a 2-hour trip on multiple buses instead of a quick 20-minute drive. It means waiting in long lines, spending hours comparing prices at different stores, or trying to fix broken, outdated equipment yourself. That lost time is an invisible tax. Hours become days, and days become years. So while a wealthy person is using their saved time to learn or invest or build a business, a struggling person is losing that exact same time just trying to get through the week.
Section 4, the compounding effect, moving in opposite directions. These hidden costs, the high interest rates, the time, taxes, they don't just add up mathematically, they compound. Most of us know about positive compound interest, right? That's where your wealth grows, and then that growth generates even more growth. It's great. But what really isn't talked about enough is negative compounding. For someone living right on the edge, a single setback isn't just a one-time penalty. It drops their credit score. That lower score means higher borrowing costs. Higher costs lead to more debt. More debt leads to more stress and way fewer options. Every single setback triggers another setback. It's a chain reaction. So while the wealthy are riding this wave of positive compounding to pull further and further ahead, the poor are caught in a vicious undertow of negative compounding. And over decades, this creates a massive, constantly expanding gap in advantages.
Section 5, breaking the cycle, actionable steps for stability. Okay, let's pivot to the solution because escaping this trap is entirely possible. Understanding this problem is literally the very first step to breaking the cycle. So, the crucial point is, how do we actually stop this negative compounding in its tracks? Well, you don't start by trying to make millions of dollars overnight. That's not realistic. You start by systematically removing the obstacles to build true financial stability. Step 1 is creating stability. Even a tiny emergency fund of a few $100s is your shield against the quicksand of a broken-down car. It stops the immediate crisis from becoming long-term debt. Step 2, build a valuable skill. This increases your income and eventually buys back your time. Step 3, aggressively target and reduce high-interest debt. You have to cut off the oxygen to that negative compounding cycle. And finally, Step 4, continuous financial education. Now, I know these steps aren't exactly glamorous, but trust me, they are the architectural foundation for absolute financial stability.
This really brings us to a fundamental truth. Compounding works both ways. The exact same mathematical force that can drag you down into debt can be harnessed to build incredible wealth. You really don't need a massive windfall to change your life. Small, consistent improvements, like saving a little bit each week, reading up on personal finance, or even just paying an extra $20 toward a debt, these positive habits, when you start them today and repeat them over the years, they will transform into massive, life-changing results tomorrow.
Ultimately, financial success isn't just about who works the hardest. It's really about systematically minimizing the obstacles in your path and letting positive compounding do the heavy lifting for you. Which leaves us with maybe the most important financial decision you will ever make. Will your future be different from your past? You now know exactly how the trap works, and you have the actionable steps to break it. The sooner you decide to take action on those steps, the more powerful your results are going to be. Take that first step today and let compounding start working for you. Thanks for joining me on this explainer.